Welcome back to Car Mechanic Simulator 2021. If you're enjoying this series or any content on the channel, don't forget to subscribe and a like on the video, it does really help. Today we're working on the next story car. Last episode we did the Edgewood Hellcat, get my words out. Today we're working with this beauty, a 1983 Emden Jager. Yeah, not the nicest looking car, not the fastest, 99 factory horsepower, but there is a connection we have with this car. So the guy who's given it to us just got back from a business trip, and he went out in his car, he set off an evening ride, and something caught his attention. The car drove better than before. Turns out his son had a little adventure in his car, and his son brought it to us to fix, and we fixed it. And he was so impressed by the attitude that his son took to actually get the car fixed after making the mistake. And whilst the car now drives better than ever before, he wants us to have a look at his son's car. Now, he wants to repay him for making his gem give me even more pleasure from driving. The kid, couldn't afford a renovation, so please make the engine reach perfection and give it some spark. The bodywork also needs some love. Pimp this ride and add a bit more horsepower. Nice father. So we've got 3 pages of undiscovered parts. That's not too bad. 3 bodywork parts to do. Change the oil as normal. There's a spray factory colour on there as well. And then in other tasks, the big one, increase tuning of a car by 10 to 15%. Now, the reason the length of this video is longer than I was hoping it for was for that fact. It's knowing what parts you can add on to increase horsepower for a car. It's knowing that they're going to fit instead of spending the money and getting it wrong. So you'll see a little bit of deliberation while we try and work out, is that the correct part, is it not? We've also got to fix the car. We're just zooming through the examination at the start. I don't think there's going to be a massive amount of things wrong with this car. I wouldn't have guessed. Whenever I try and increase the horsepower or do any performance upgrades for any job, my thing is always to increase something that A, even needs replacing anyway, or B, we can fix the previous part and keep it for next time. That way we're not wasting money. That's always been my way of looking at it. It also needs new wheels. The tyres have had it according to that. Okay, last test. And then we'll have a look. We can see there's some issues with the front steering. The front axle on both sides looks like it's gone. So yeah, front drive axle H times 2. Front drive shaft, fuel filter, Serpentine Belt, Serpentine Belt A, tyres. I'm really hoping we don't have to take the engine out. We may get away with not taking the engine out. Hopefully. Fingers crossed. For the first time in a while we haven't had to. We'll start though by taking the oil out. Always a good one to start with. We all know we need to do it, so it's easier to get it done off the bat. So oil out first. We are very, very close as well, if you noticed the XP levelling up. Now, I don't think we're going to make it this episode. We may be very close by the time we finish this episode, hopefully. Also, we have something else we need to think about. So, we need to increase the horsepower of the engine. That's not a problem. We can do that, but I always like to use a dyno to just make sure we are correct. Now, we don't have one. It's £20,000 for a dyno. And I think it's something we're going to have to buy today, just to confirm that we've done the correct thing. I know you get a tick on the job, but it's nice to see it in front of you as well as we start taking parts off the car. So if we talk about HP upgrades, horsepower upgrades on any car, some people have a lot of issues with these kind of jobs, mainly because the job is increase the horsepower by say 10 to 15%. They go way above the top mark, so they'll end up doing a 20% upgrade instead of the maximum 15. You have to get between the two numbers, so you can't just max out the parts. You kind of need to do some maths and kind of make sure that you're not going above that top mark. Now, this car requires a 10 to 15% upgrade. There are certain things I tend to look at and go, yeah, I'll do those. They're fairly simple. And there's other parts we'll do because it just gives us a decent upgrade of power. But we'll have a look at that. So, looking at this engine, we need to do the belt. We know that the Serpentine Belt needs replacing. But we know we need to do the drive shaft. The axle, sorry, not drive shaft. Drive axle. So second wheel front left coming off. Them wheels definitely need sorting out. We're going to have an issue with those. What about brake pads? Yep, brake pads are gone as well. You may have noticed on the front right, the brake pads had also gone. So we're discovering parts we hadn't discovered whilst getting the parts that we had seen out. I was wrong and right at the same time. The drive shaft also needed doing. We're just checking the rubber bushings on the front. And annoyingly, without running through the test path, we have to manually check each one. Don't think they're on that list. They're not. Okay, we're going to do our best not to take the engine out. That's kind of my plan. We'll see how far we get with that. So we're just checking any other little things we can see on this front end of the car. I think we're okay. Is there anything else we can see that we need to deal with? No. The starter needs to come out from the engine bay anyway. So we'll have a look at that in a second. Mainly because I want to check the gear side of things as well. What have we got? Starter motor there. Just spotted out of the corner of my eye actually. I think that's the fuel filter. Oil filter, one of the two. There's an issue with that. We're just going to take the gearbox off. Just check behind that really, just to see if there's any other issues there. It's worth it while the axles are off to do this. It's worse if we put the axles back on and then find we haven't checked it and there's an issue with it. So it makes sense to do it while the car is up in the air and certain parts are off. This makes our life a little bit easier. But yeah, the big slowdown on this car will be the increase in horsepower, just because we need to make sure we're putting the right things in for the car itself. So that all looks good. The oil filter needs to come off, that needs replacing, and the fuel filter. I was right in both. I was looking at the wrong part, but I was right in both of them. Flywheel looks okay. Anything else we can spot from this angle? I think it's not looking too bad. We'll take the flywheel off. It doesn't matter. We've got to put it back on no matter what. I just want to have a look at the crankshaft, but I think that's fine. So we'll go to the engine bay and we'll have a look in here and see what we can do without taking it off. We're going to need to take some of this front off the timing side. So Serpentine Belt does need replacing, we know that. There's the fuel filter, we spotted that from below. What have we got? Fuel rail. Just trying to make sure. Okay, that's that. So if we take the engine head cover off, we can have a quick look inside that. I'm trying to remember what else was on the list. I'm assuming that's on the list. The camshaft is gone. So I would assume that was on the list. But to get to that, we need to take this all off. We need the serpentine belts anyway, so it's definitely worth doing. We need to make sure we drain the coolant, otherwise we're going to get a leak, because we need to take off the water pump, and we don't want to get fined. But we're not going to be able to get to this timing cover, I don't think, without taking it off. So we'll start with the Serpentine Belt A. That's one of the ones that need replacing anyway if they can't be fixed. The second Serpentine Belt as well. Idle rollers, that one's off. Crankshaft pulleys can come off. What have we got? Okay, water pump does need to come off. Means we didn't drain it for no reason at least. Timing cover can now come off. Well, okay, belt tensioner, that needs replacing by the looks of it, or fixing. I don't know if you can fix a belt tensioner actually offhand. Timing belt, that needs sorting out as well, and the cam gear as well. So that's kind of as deep into the engine we need to go, I think. So we don't need to worry too much about taking the engine out. I think we're safe. I say that now. We'll wait and see if I can get around it. It's never good working in an engine bay because it does get quite cramped. A pain to get the right view. But for what we need to do, it's kind of a waste to take the engine out as well. So, you know, we're trying to make it work as best as possible. Missed a cap there. Camshaft cap off. And camshaft can come out. Okay. What else can we do here? We need to replace the spark plugs, so we need to get to them. Where are they? Trying to work out when the spark plugs are. Don't think they're there. I think it's the other side, you know. I think it's the exhaust manifold, the intake manifold, sorry, needs to come off. I think, and that's the spark plugs there. None of that needs replacing. That we just took off. Let's get into what we need. No, they're not this side. I'm trying to remember where things are sometimes. It is difficult. I'm trying to find... Maybe I was right the first time. Maybe the exhaust manifold is what we need to take off. This is where the view gets a bit obscured. And this is why working engine bay isn't brilliant. Managed to fix the view. So I wonder if they are in here then. Each car, they're located in different places depending on the car. And sometimes it's just a pain to remember. Yeah, here they are. So the ignition wires, I could have followed the wires to be honest. Spark plugs have come out. All four of them need replacing anyway. And they're normally everyone's go-to for upgrading power. They do give a small boost if you change them for upgraded parts. Okay, is there anything else we can see here? Let's have a quick look. We're going to go into our tune-up shop. First time I've ever done this. I'm just having a look for potentially what we could change. So we could change the alternator, we could change the camshaft. Camshaft seems to be the one we should do, mainly because we need to replace the part anyway. But it's making sure we get the right one. And it's so easy to get it wrong. So if we have a look at what we need to change, i4 SOHC engine. That's the important part, is the SOHC. But some parts are A's, some are B's. It is confusing at times. So you've got to try and make sure you get the right part. And obviously you can't just add to a shopping list because it won't show up in the tuning shop. So I think the right one is here. It is this one here. It's quite expensive, to be fair. £550, although we'll get a discount. But that does give us our performance boost of 2.75%. That's quite a big boost for one part. But I'm just making sure that is the right part. So when I did this, I wrote everything down. Every time I found we got a part, I wrote down the engine just to be sure we weren't doing anything wrong. We're going to get a big discount on that. But there we have a new camshaft with a performance bonus. The air filter, I don't know if the air filter needs replacing or not. Some of them, yes, it does. I think that's on our list. So again, we can't fix the air filter, so we may as well put a performance one in because we need to replace it no matter what. So it makes sense. So the air filter will give us a 1.75% boost. So that's two parts already changed and a decent amount towards our target of 10% minimum. And it's replacing a part we will have to replace anyway. That's kind of the way I look at things. To replace the parts we need to replace, or replace something we can fix and keep. That way we're not losing money as much. Okay, so that's air filter done. Let's have a look on here. Still have a few parts, 2 parts undiscovered. That's something we need to find. I don't think it'll be that difficult to find though. We shall see. So, we've got the new camshaft, we can put that in place. There we go. 2.75% bonus. We do need to pull the caps back in place. They take a little bit of time. I'm just seeing if any of the caps need replacing on the list. They don't, and none are showing up. Because we've taken them off, they would show up if they need replacing. So ignore the percentage of them because it doesn't matter. They're going to go back in place. Two more to go. Nicely done. Okay, what's next? I'm thinking spark plugs. Spark plugs you can buy tune parts. They are tiny little bit better. I mean, they don't give a massive percentage, but then would you expect them to? Probably not. And we do need 4 of them, so it all adds up. I'm also thinking exhaust manifold. Maybe. That's the right one. That's an i4 SOHC exhaust manifold. It's not that expensive. £170, although we'll get a discount on that. And that will give us a 1.5% boost. So that makes sense. I believe we can fix an exhaust manifold as well. So that's a bonus part. Definitely got to, you'll see I've got to go back and forth quite a bit just to be sure we're getting the right part. The intake manifold may be, although I don't think it needs replacing. But yeah, I think that's definitely the right one to put in place. Exhaust manifold, I thought SOHC. I have to keep double checking because I just don't want to get it wrong. Be an expensive mistake, although this one isn't that expensive, but it could be a very expensive mistake. So yep, we're going to take that. That's a bit of more boost as well to the car. What else do we still need? We still need spark plugs actually. I'm trying to think what else we need to have a look at. It's in alphabetical order, so I'm just looking. Fuel filter, we do need one of those. We saw the one we had was no good. That gives a small boost of 0.6%. Again, it all adds up. So that might be one worth putting on as well. Anything else on this page at the same time? I was considering a fuel rail at one point, but I don't know. It just seemed, do we want a fuel rail? It's a decent boost. The one we need is it that one? So I get really unsure of myself and don't want to commit without double checking. Fuel rail that's on there is a fuel rail standard. So you just got to find a standard fuel rail. I believe it's that one. And that will give us a 3% boost. Now, that doesn't leave us much needed. I don't think, percentage-wise, from my adding up as we've been going along, don't think we need a massive increase now. So spark plugs could be the way forward. Let's see if we can find the spark plugs first. Ignition wires possibly. They don't need replacing, but we could put new ignition wires on. A lot of that's electric stuff. Okay, spark plugs. They don't give a big boost at all, do they? 0.13%, but we do need 4. So that would give us a 0.52% increase, if my maths is correct. I think that's correct. I think that's it. I think, if my maths is correct, I think we may be over the 10% minimum. And we'll get a boost in pay because of the performance parts anyway, for the job. So I think that's all the performance parts done. As I say, we've replaced stuff that either A, we can fix, or B, needed replacing anyway. So we've kind of killed 2 birds with 1 stone where possible. Let's have a double check. There we go, they're in there. What do we need to fix or replace? The camshaft, obviously, we can fix and keep ourselves. The timing belt, we need to buy one. Serpentine belt again, both serpentine belts. Oil filter. Fuel filter. We got a fuel filter. We didn't buy a oil filter actually, so we do need to replace that. We may be able to fix the 2 axles. Brake pads we do need. This is why I like using the shopping list. We can't fix that front axle. It's too far gone. This is why I like having a shopping list, because it's just easier to put everything on there. We're going to take the tyres off. We need to get the rims off the wheel, because we're going to need to replace the tyres. And probably fix the rims, looking at the state of them as well. So that's one off. Second one. Just as we finish this wheel, we're going to go off, fix what we can, buy what we need, and we'll come back to the car in a second. Okay, last tyre being balanced, and then we are ready to start putting parts back on the car. I think we made a good decision not taking the engine out. Saved us a little bit of time. And I think we probably used that time deciding what other parts to put on the car, to be honest. But I think we've done a good job. So, engine head cover back on. We can put our spark plugs in place, the brand new spark plugs, to replace the ones that needed taken out. It's not a massive boost, 0.13%, but it all adds up. And I'm pretty sure it's taken us above the minimum of 10% boost. Again, if you're doing this yourself, do not go above the maximum and do not go below the minimum of percentage needed to upgrade a car. It will not pass. It will not allow you to finish the job, especially going above. A lot of people go above because they don't think about it. They just think more than's fine. It's not. It's the top range you can go towards. Exhaust manifold cover to go back on now as well. Okay, what have we got this side? We've got the intake manifold. Didn't need fixing or replacing, that's all good. To be fair, the car's not in that bad condition. There's a few little issues, but nothing major. A new fuel rail, a souped up version. We've got a new fuel filter again, another souped up version. We'll put the standard throttle back on. Yeah, the car itself is not in a bad condition. Cam gear can go back on, that's fine. Right, belts. Again, these are standard, but we had to buy new ones because you can't fix belts. Belt tensioner. Didn't replace the belt tensioner. We do need to, so we need to quickly go and buy one of those. It's the one thing I missed when we were meant to be buying stuff. I thought I got it, but obviously I missed it. So one belt tensioner. There we go. Nicely done. Timing cover back on, and then all the little bits, the idle roller. We've got our crankshaft pulley, our water pump, and then I think it's another belt after that. Yes, it is. There we go. Getting good at this. I can guess in advance. Serpentine belt's on. Serpentine belt A back on as well. Another replacement that needed doing. Now I think that's all back to how it should be. If we lift it up, we can now put all the gearbox and drive shaft and stuff back as well. I think that's the next port of call. I'm just double checking myself. It's so easy to go wrong if you rush. So that's why I try and take my time, try and be methodical where possible. Okay, flywheel, we took it off, we didn't need to, but that's off, it's done, it's fine. Clutch plate back on as well, again, didn't need to deal with it. Pressure plate, again, didn't need doing anything with. And the clutch release bearing as well. Something else we didn't need to do anything with. Gearbox back on. Perfect as it is. Pretty good condition gearbox, to be honest, for what it's been used on. We did fix the drive shaft, but not to 100%. We did it above the minimum needed. We had to buy one new drive axle and fix the other. New brake pads though. New brake calipers go back on. And we can put this wheel back on the front left. That's done. Look at that nice shiny rim going back on there. Pretty happy with the way that looks. So now the front right. Again, pretty similar to the other side. Drive axle. Back in. And that's the one that's just been fixed. Brand new brake pads. The old brake calipers can go back on. And then we're good to go for the wheel. Happy days. Now I'm pretty sure that's the front of the car done. So the rear of the car, that rim needs sorting out. So I'm assuming that's one of the parts we hadn't already taken off. So that may count towards the final two. We're just going to check the brake pads as well. Brake pads actually look okay. So this is the point of where you know there's only two things to find. You can easily miss something. So it's better just to manually have a look. We're just double checking a few things. Oil filter still needs put back in place. Did I not screw that back on? Kind of done. There's our rim. And we still need 2 new tyres. So there's no parts outstanding then. There's just the things we already know about. So actually we don't need to go looking. We just need to sort out the stuff we know about. And that is the wheels on both sides. And that's it. I'm pretty sure. I should have checked the list earlier. I wouldn't need to do anything. So we take off the rear left. And you can see straight away that rim needs dealing with. And it needs new tyres anyway. We found out with the tyre test, didn't we? The tyres had it. So, oil filter we need to do. I need to remember to put back in place. I think we bought one, we just haven't done it. 2 rims, 2 tyres needed. And that is it. 5 things left to do. So, we need to take the wheels apart. Normally, we'd cut all this, but it just made sense to leave it in at this point. It's just 2 wheels, take apart, replace, The tyres, the rims, if we can fix them, we'll fix. If we can't, we won't. And we'll have to buy new ones and maybe have them in our storage. And then oil filter. And then we move on to the bodywork. I don't think it's definitely not a bad job. We've had a lot worse jobs to do. Story cars, this one is not too bad at all. Must remember, put the starter motor back in. We're going to forget that if we're not careful. I think that's an engine bay one though, the one I remember. Okay. So we need to put the tyres, we need to buy the tyres first, actually, while I think about it. We managed to fix the rims, so that's all good. We don't need to buy any. Tyres. Now tyres, I've had a nightmare with tyres sometimes, remembering all the different parts you need to remember. So they come in completely different sizes, different widths. So we have, how many we need? 2. Size is 13s. The width is a 175. There we go. So they're so easy to forget what parts you need sometimes. I do make a note of them generally. It's so easy to forget. I don't actually know if you can put different sizes on cars. I've not tried. I've tried to do everything back to standard. So we may have to have a look at that at some point down the line. I know on PC they can do some sillier sizes on cars. Where the game makes it float because it can't deal with it. But I like the more realistic side. So balancing one here while the other one is being put back together. So we can take that off now. Balance the last wheel. Balancer is pretty simple to use, to be honest. There is a trophy as well. I don't think we've achieved it. Have we achieved it yet? I can't remember now. There's one for balancing a certain amount of tyres. So I don't know if we've already got it. But anyway, back to what we're doing. Tyre back on. Brand new tyre. Fixed rim. Looking better already, I will say. The car is looking 10 times better. So now, fuel filter. We had missed this earlier. We should have put it back on when we had a chance. We can do it from underneath though. So there we go. Sorry, not fuel, oil filter. And then we do need to remember starter motor. And then I believe bodywork is next. So, starter motor from the engine bay. So side-on gearboxes, or front-wheel drive gearboxes, generally have a starter motor from the engine bay. So that is every job on them 3 pages done. Next, body parts. And spray factory colour. And change the fluids. Got to remember the fluids and calibrate the wheels as well. It has already ticked the increase the tuning by 10 to 15%. But I still want to double check myself. It's nice that it's done it. It means we can finish the car. But I always like to use the dyno just to be sure. So we're going to have to buy one. So let's see what ones do we need to change. What fluids? Oil we've done. We just haven't filled it back up. So we'll refill the oil now. So that's oil done. We need to refill the coolant. We drained it when we took the water pump off, just in case we didn't want to fine for leaking. And now I think power steering was one we needed to drain and replace. Was it? I can't remember. Okay, let's have a look. Change oil is done. We need front right bonnet, front right fender, and front right door. So we go off and fix the body parts. Hopefully they're still high enough that we can fix. They are. Now let's see us fail these. We don't normally show fixing body parts, I don't need to, but we passed first time and we passed second. Perfect. This is when we fail one and have to replace it fully. We don't actually need to do the mirror. It's not low enough to have to do it. So we're all good there. Door is done though. Nearly. There we go. Door is done. And we don't have to replace the mirror. So nice and easy. Bodywork has been done. Door can go back on. And then we need to put the glass back in. And the wing mirror back on. Front fender. And the bonnet or hood, depending what you call it. I think in America it's hood, isn't it? And in the UK it's bonnet. Okay, spray car. Still need to do the fluids. So change power steering, change brake. Should have done them when I had it open, to be fair. So these need draining first. Would have saved myself some time, but I didn't. So brake fluid change first. That's it drained. We can refill. I don't know what the factory colour choice is either. I have to have a look at that and see what we choose. I'm quite basic when it comes to colours. As you probably noticed in the cars we've rebuilt, so I don't really mind what colours we've got a choice from. But we've got to pick one of them. It's got to be the factory colour, because that is what it's asking for. So power steering fluid or reservoir has been drained. We can now refill, and I believe that's all the mechanical side of jobs done. Perfect. So next we need to go and buy the dyno. £20,000 this dyno is going to cost us. But we do need to go and buy it because we don't have one, and I want to double check our upgrades. £20,000, and we'll go and see you in the dyno. As you can see, we've painted the car, we've done all the other little bits and pieces. Factory colour, we went for white, but this is the dyno. It took me a minute to realise once you click onto the dyno, you actually have to press X again to actually start the test. That did take me a minute to realise. I was just expecting to start, it didn't. You can see the factory horsepower of the Emden Jager is 99 horsepower. That is not very much, but hopefully we'll see a small increase. I'm not expecting miracles. We're aiming for 10 to 15%. We know it's ticked. How much did we give it in total? We did 10.10%. That's not bad. We gave it 2 extra horsepower. Now does 101 brake horsepower. For an i4 engine, I don't think that's too bad, to be fair. And for the size of the car, it's still going to do alright, I think, in a straight line. It's a small car, it's got to be light, surely. So there we go. New paint job as well. That is job done. We'll just check the lists and just make sure, but I don't think we did a bad job with the paint job. I just went for natural colour. That was what the factory colour was. It made sense. So there's everything done. So we spent £2,425 on this car, not including obviously buying the dyno. It's going to pay us £12,764, and that's a profit of £10,339 in total. Not a bad day's work. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next time.